Andrew Loberg, Major League Fishing professional. Out here on the water on Lake Berryessa here in Northern California, mid-November. The fishing was phenomenal today. We had cold conditions. The last couple weeks, it's been in the low 50s, nights in the 30s, and these fish are starting to think about wintertime. And one of my favorite ways to catch a bass going into the wintertime is with the Lucky Craft LV 500. This bait was brand new out of the package this morning. It's all chewed up. Dyeing bait fish when it gets cold is a very, very good tactic to catch a lot of these fish. They're grouped up and wanting to head into wintertime and feeding. The LV 500 is a lipless crankbait, a little bit heavier than a ½ ounce, with a very, very erratic motion to it. What's going on with the LV 500, it has a lot of heavy rattles, and it's a bait that makes them react to and wanting to feed. Today, what we found out is a lot of fish were really, really grouped up. If you found one fish, there was 10 to 15 behind it. And we had one spot that you'll see in the video where it was one after another for about 20 to 30 minutes. What makes the LV 500 different from other rattle traps is a lot heavier rattle trap. This thing comes in at a ½ to ¾ ounce. One of my favorite techniques to use this LV 500 is yo-yoing it. And what it does is make a long cast, let it sink to the bottom, and you're basically ripping it up off the bottom, making them react to it, acting like a dying bait fish. With the loud rattles and it going up and down, the fish just can't resist, especially if you get into a group of fish, like a school of them, around some bait. One of the major reasons why I like the heavier bait like the LV 500 is you can cover a ton of water, cast really long, and you can fish it fast and find those fish. And like I said earlier, once you find that one fish, there should be a group of them that you can fire back in there. Due to the shape of the LV 500, if you're fishing around a lot of grass, that slender profile rips through that grass very, very well, creating a very lifelike image of a dying bait fish around grass. And this time of year, those fish want to see that and make that reaction. The size of that profile, the slenderness, the balance, the weighted system inside of this bait, the LV 500 is very, very tough to beat this time of year. Colors with the LV 500, I try to stick to as natural as I can depending on the watercolor. Today we had pretty clear water. I stuck with the Ghost Minnow, and this is the Silver Cheek. It's got a little foil flash on it, and because of the wind we had, those fish liked it. Outside of the Ghost Minnow, the Chartreuse Shads, if you get in a little bit dirtier water, if you're fishing around a lot of rock, that spring craw color that imitates a crawdad off the bottom as well. The gear to fish the LV 500 is very, very important. When I'm yo-yoing this rattle trap, I want a high gear ratio reel, from 7.3 to 8:1 gear ratio reel. This is a Daiwa 8:1 gear ratio reel. If I'm fishing this bait in, let's say, 1 to 6 feet of water, I love throwing it on 20-pound fluoro. Today we were fishing it a little bit deeper. I range from 17 to 15. If I do go deeper than, let's say, 10 feet, anything deeper than that, I love 12-pound fluorocarbon, all on 100% fluorocarbon, only because you don't want the stretch and you want that line diameter to be as thin as possible when that bait's going up and down. The rod is just as important as the reel. This is a 7.5, you can use a 7.6, even a 7.3. I like a longer rod when you're making long casts and you do hook those fish at the end of your cast just to get a hook in them and keep them pinned. It's a moderate to a little bit fast. You want a little backbone that tapers down in the butt of it, but you want a soft tip just because it is a treble hook bait. And a lot of times when this grass this time of year is dying off, you're not in too heavy of vegetation to where you need that, heavier rod to get a trap out. So something a little bit light, something long, so you can make long casts, yo-yo it fine, and also get those treble hooks in, because this time of year when it does get a lot colder, sometimes when you do make them react, they'll slap at it and they won't fully get the bait in their mouth. So making sure you have a softer tip on the LV 500 rod this time of year is key. Now, my top choice in the fall is going to be an LV 500, this body style. If you're fishing a lake that has a little bit smaller bait, but you still want to have that same sink ratio, the LV 150 is one of my next favorite ones. Again, if you're fishing that smaller bait, maybe even some spotted bass or smaller fish, or trying to target those smaller fish, the LV 150 will get those key strikes. It's a little bit smaller body than the LV 500, but has the same sink ratio relative to its size. Two great options to choose from fishing all around the country in the bait that is in your lakes. Next time you go out fishing in the fall, be sure to pick up the LV 500 and the LV 150 series. They come in a variety of different colors, and just have it tied on and have it strapped to the deck of the boat. It is very crucial in the fall with dying bait fish presentation. The LV 500, find fish fast, you can move a lot of water, and once you do make them fire, it's a fish catcher. So be sure to check them out on luckycraftusa.com. So we're out here on Lake Berryessa. We found us a little school of fish, and I'm just gonna show you real quick on my presentation of yo-yoing that LV 500. It's like a really good technique when you have a cold north front like this today, and a lot of that bait fish going into wintertime starts dying back. They're still on top of the water column. A lot of these bait fish are still shallow, but when it starts, they get that cold snap, they start dying off, and they kind of act funny. And the LV 500 rattle trap, very erratic, and when you yo-yo this thing, it comes up and comes down, and it just does a really natural presentation of what makes what I like to do. If you do find fish that are schooling, I like to stay off of them as far as I can so I don't disturb them. I keep that rod tip high at about a 10 o'clock angle, and watch your line, because a lot of times that they eat it on the fall, and what you do is just crank it real fast and let it free fall back down to the bottom. Once it's the bottom, you want that bait to come right back up to the top, and just make them react to it. And a lot of times those bites come when they a lot of times those bites will come on that fall. So let's see if we can catch one. I've schooled up pretty good. Play with your trees, you know, we're only 6 to 8 foot, you know, so if you're fishing a lot deeper, you know, you might want to have a lot longer rip up to the top and a longer fall. Or shallower, you want to, you know, burn it a little faster. Hit right on the fall, as they should. Just like that. I mean, they just, when they want to bite, they bite. Eat it sideways. It's always good on a reaction bite when they get it across the face. Pull the pliers out. LV, nice little mean mouth. Going here on Lake Berryessa. Cold north wind. But this time of year, going into winter time, they're feeding up. That's a big old spot right there. And they're just getting that LV. You get a cold day like we have today, a lot of that bait fish that's on top of the surface start dying back, and they want to feed before winter. That LV, man, just mimics the dying bait fish so well. Oh, baby. Largy. Largy. Choked it. A little grass, a little bass. Just like that.